What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Knives Monroe Daily Podcast. How are you guys doing? Hopefully, you're doing well. It's Sunday. You know what that means. It's Q&A time. Got a list of questions here. I have not gone through them, so I don't even know what I'm going to be asked. But let's jump right into it. I really appreciate this. If you ever want to ask me a question, just leave it in the comments below. DM me on Instagram. Reach out to me on Threads. More than happy to answer these on a Sunday. First question here is, can you tell us about your early life and how it influenced your career? Well, I guess the only way to start is my mother worked at a video store, and this is like from ages 6 to 9 for me. And she would bring home any movie that I wanted to watch. Didn't matter if it was rated R. Didn't matter if it was Terminator 2, Ninja Turtles, Secret of the Ooze, Species, Alien, Raising Arizona, doesn't matter. So I got to watch whatever I want. And that helped develop my palate and my taste at a very early age. Also, there was the dollar movies over there at the Ghetto Mall in Far, Texas, down in the Rio Grande Valley. It was called the Ghetto Mall because it was really small and everything was cheap and everything was gross and you could get stabbed. And they had movies that were old that would play for $1. And so my mom would just drop me off and I could watch whatever I wanted. She wouldn't even go to the movies with me every time. But half the time she would just drop me off. And so I'd watch really cool stuff. And, you would look in the paper, or back then you would call on the phone and you would ask and see what movies were playing. And whatever that was playing soonest is what you would watch. So that really started my film vocabulary and my cinephilia at a very early age. And I think that influenced my career because when I realized that I was a filmmaker 10 years later at 16, I already had a steady base. I had seen a lot of movies. I kind of understood and knew what actors did and producers and filmmakers, Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, guys like that. And so it was a fertile nesting ground for me to do what I wanted to do later in my life and go into more like of an indie film route. And so I thank my mom for that for sure. Whether she meant to or not, or wanted to or not, or meant to, she helped develop my filmmaking taste and my ability to ingest and digest and synthesize films. So I thank her for that. And without that, I don't know if I'd be doing it 20 years later. I don't know if I'd still be doing it. So shout out to mom. Another question. How do you come up with your ideas for films? I don't even try. That's not to say it comes naturally. I don't mind if it takes 5 years until an idea hits me. You have to keep your channel open, keep your chakras and your aura and your vibration and your antenna open and turn it on. So that way, if an idea does hit you, you're open to it and you can catch it like a butterfly with a net or like a fish on a hook. So my last idea came to me before the pandemic. At the time, it was called The Girl. What was it called? It was called The Girl on Her Phone in the Bathroom, which is exactly what it sounds like. And then it evolved into something that I refer to now as Knives Monroe's persona, because there's a lot of personas out there. There's Ingmar Bergman's persona. There's the video game persona. So I was like, Knives Monroe's persona, which had a funny name to it. That idea kind of had a germ that sort of came fully formed in 2019, early 2020, pre-pandemic. And then the pandemic happened. There was no way I was going to make that movie, which was funny because it was like a quarantine movie before the quarantine. So that was like the last time I had an idea, and that's been in the past 5 years. Ideas for films really is like a bucket being filled up with water, one drop at a time. You got to collect hundreds of ideas that you can then put into a movie. Or if you're really lucky, you win the lottery like I did with Persona. An idea comes at you fully formed, character arc, character name, title for the movie, 3-act structure. It hits you all at once. And when that happens, you just have to speed demon right. That's really rare. It's really uncommon. But the way I come up with ideas, that's for films, right? But for podcasts, I really like to think in terms of like 30, 50 ideas at once, and I write them all down. So every podcast that I've made in the past 20 days was a topic that I had written down for years, and I knew I was going to get to it eventually. And I can always revisit it because to me it's evergreen. Those ideas just sound really good on paper. For instance, gatekeep your peace. That was something that when that idea hit me, I think I made it like the next day. That one wasn't really locked and loaded in the chamber for as long as I'd like to admit, but it was there, and I had to run with it. Another idea: 5 tips to make the process more bearable came from Louis Cartoon, who gave me the idea. That was something he was interested in me seeing. I just straight up asked him, "What do you want to see from me?" And that's what he came up with. So you got to keep the channel open. You got to keep these ideas open. And if I like it and it's sticky, then I know there's some meat to it, and then I script it out, and then I go from there. So it's really just about like putting yourself on the hook and seeing what bites and reeling in a big fish. That's really what it comes down to. Can you tell us about a project that didn't go as planned, and what did you learn from it? Oh dear. So in 2014, 10 years ago, I shot and directed this movie called The Seven Hands of God. So if you know me and you know about my mythology and you know about the Knives Monroe lore, you know about this. It was quite an embarrassment. It was a public failure. I made the movie with the same cast and crew that I shot my first film on, Her Doppelganger, and R.I.P. Lassiter Holmes, and Perla Rodriguez is still out there. I don't mind naming them now because Lassiter's no longer with us, and I don't feel I can really just speak my truth and feel at peace with that. So it is what it is. But R.I.P. Lassiter Holmes, who was in my first picture, he was in my second picture as well. And unfortunately, it didn't work out. What did I learn from it? It didn't go as planned. We shot 2 days in a row. The crew was burnt out, and then we stopped filming the third day, which cost us like $500 or $1,000 to just keep everybody at their Airbnb, at their hotel, wherever they were. And it was pretty brutal. And then we did a 50-hour day after that. It was just intense, and I lost my passion for that movie, and I don't have a copy of that movie. That's pretty much the short and long of it, truth be told. But what did I learn from it? I learned, make a movie about a script that you absolutely love. If you don't love that script and you wouldn't die for it, don't make that movie. You have no business making that movie. A feature-length film, is a miracle, is a small business brought to life. And if your heart is not in it, don't do it. It was pretty fragile for me. The script I wrote in about 6 days. In January, we casted it. In February, we shot it. In March, we cut it. In April, we screened it in May. That wasn't enough time to really fall in love with this picture. So that's a big takeaway for me, is if you don't love a movie, don't do it. Also, be very, 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 very careful who you make films with. Are these people your friends? Are they being paid? What is their agenda behind making this movie? You got to be very clear about that and transparent. And thirdly, and probably most importantly of all, the director is the captain of the ship. If the ship sinks, it's the director's fault. And that ship sank, and it is my fault. And I really put that responsibility on my crew, man. And I shouldn't have done that. And that was a failure of leadership on my part. I was 26. I wasn't really ready to make that movie at the stakes that it was. And I take ownership of that. And I've forgiven myself of that. I punished myself for a very long time. But, that movie was like an $8,000 budget, just the principal photography of it. And then there was the post-production cost. Throw another 10 grand in that. And then throw like 50 grand into like the production cost that Pearl Road Studios put into that movie. You're looking at $75,000 sunk cost, So I take that as an L, for sure. I wish I had a copy of the movie. I wish Perla and I had a relationship, and obviously a friendship is what I mean. And I wish we were able to recut it together, turn it into something, and flip it. But I think her heart wasn't in it either. Maybe I had something to do with that. I feel like I've apologized to those I needed to apologize to, but forgiveness goes both ways, and it's just this sunken ship at the bottom of the ocean now, and it just doesn't exist, and it's a goddamn shame. But that is the project that did not go according to plan, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. Insofar as I've learned so much from it, here we are 10 years later, and I'm still talking about it. So it's pretty cray. Another question: how do you prepare for a podcast episode? Oh man, that's a great question. So I never used to prepare for them, and then they weren't really consistent. So It depends. If I'm doing these solo pods, which is the majority of what I do, I really just have a script, have a beat sheet, have a topic, stick to it, get in, get out, and I try not to have it full of fluff, no fat. I like it lean and, just full of value, and then let's get the fuck out of there. So you have to write it. You have to think of the topic first, think of your audience first, and I prepare that way as far as pre-production goes. But if I have a guest, I do research. If they have a movie, I like to watch their movie before we hop on. I have a list of questions. I have a list of stock questions that I always fall back on. Secondly, when it comes to guests, you have to be a really good listener, and you can't teach that necessarily. Half of what I do is listen to my audience, listen to my subject, listen to my subject. Did I say that twice? I meant to say listen to my interviewee, listen to my subject, and yeah. So it's really about over preparing and go with the flow. That's sort of my process there. What type of content do you enjoy creating the most for your channel? I enjoy creating podcasts quite a bit. Obviously, I've been showing up for it daily for almost a month now. And I'm very proud of the streak that we have going on. I just came back from Houston and did a 3-hour drive, and it's 7:19 right now. Those will probably be up at 9:20. House of the Dragon is airing today, so I don't know if I'll have to push that back. It's Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Every day is Father's Day when you're a dad. But I enjoy making podcasts quite a bit. I enjoy the dual camera setup. I enjoy talking to you guys. It's incredible. It's the gift that keeps on giving for me. But I also enjoy making short films. I enjoy making vlogs. I enjoy making video essays. I've really done it all on YouTube, I like to think. I've done long form vlogs, behind the scenes. I've done feature films, short films, music videos. I really just enjoy being behind the camera. I don't mind being in front of the camera, but I love directing. That's my North Star. That's where my heart is. So I hope that answers your question. What do you do in your free time? What do you do in your free time? I work. I make podcasts. I am a father. I take my kids to the doctors. I hang out with my kids. I hang out with my dogs, hang out with my wife. I talk ad nauseum, sometimes at my wife, but I like to talk with her as well in bed. We can stay up till midnight just talking. Um, I enjoy going for long walks. I take that very seriously. It's a non negotiable for me. But I love creating and ideating and just being productive. That really charges me up lately. It used to be a source of diminishment, diminishing returns where I'd make stuff and then it just felt like it wasn't giving, but now it gives. It totally gives back. And so that's what I do in my free time. Let's see. Got four more questions here. How do you see indie filmmaking evolving in the next years? I see indie, and I've said this, and I was right historically in 2011. I think I called this that we were going to move more into television, long form storytelling, like the Breaking Bads. I think indie films are going to be sort of more piloted and distributed online and self produced, but it's going to be longer form storytelling, like The Bear. We're going to see more of those kind of productions versus feature films. That's what I think. And I think they're going to live on Hulu's and Amazon's and YouTube's, etc. I see us moving all in on YouTube. I think YouTube, number wise, has dethroned Netflix over watch time viewed. So I see all this going to YouTube and YouTube just being the king. You could say Knives, it's already there. Yeah, then I see it evolving there even more so. How do I approach networking in the film industry? You have to pay to play. So I'm fortunate enough, I got some good news over this weekend that our short film, Kingman Stables, which I had the honor enough to be able to be the cinematographer on and lead camera person, and with my friends JC and JR, shout out to JR, who's a friend of the podcast. We produced Nancy Noble together. He wrote and directed it. And we did another film called Kingman Stables. I guess it was last year. It feels it feels so long ago. Well, we got good news over the weekend that it was accepted into 2 more film festivals. And so, how do you network in the film industry? You go to these events, you shake hands, you watch other people's films, you tell other filmmakers what you liked about it, and you follow each other on Instagram and have a good, strong follow up game. So, I'm fortunate that I have this platform where, hey, I would love to interview you on my podcast, right? I can do that. And so, That's my approach to networking in the film industry. Be kind and graceful to everybody you meet, because they may work on your film one day, or they may be a gatekeeper in the future that could get your film seen. So, keep that same energy. What is your process for developing a new idea? I think I already answered that, so I'm going to pass. How do you keep learning and improving your craft? By iterations, by failures and reps, by showing up every day consistently and making it 1% better. And hopefully, over a net aggregate of 100 days, this looks like it's something better than what it was when you first started. I think this podcast has evolved since the first one that I made. I still have to find my thumbnail game. I still have to find my SEO game, etc., etc. But I think we improve the craft by constantly, never ending, uh, dedicate ourselves to improvement and learning and seeking inspiration every single day. You never know when you're going to need it. So continue to sharpen your tools, take courses, educate yourself. I'm very big on asking people like, hey, teach me. Like, can you teach me how to do this? I'm a big fan of you. You do that. Can you mentor me? Just be humble and hungry. I know that's cliche, but if you're humble and hungry, you can do anything if you're committed. I truly believe that. So iron sharpens iron. How do you keep improving and learning from your work? You have to be around where it's really fucking good, and you have to compete with the best to get better. I just believe that. Anyways, these were great questions, and we have more in the chamber. We're going to save them for next week and every other Sunday after that. But if you have any other questions, comment below. Let me know. I'd love to answer it on a future pod. If you've made it this far, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share this podcast. Leave a one-word comment. It goes a long way. I want this to grow and be big. If you're listening to this on Spotify, give me a rating on Spotify. It takes 2 clicks. It's very simple. Top left-hand corner on the pod. And just give us a rating. I'd really appreciate that. And I really appreciate you for listening. I love you guys. Keep a force field around your heart. Thanks for this Q&A. Appreciate the questions. And we'll see you guys on tomorrow's podcast. Peace.